My name is Elena Rios. I'm 30, and I can tell you the exact day I realized silence feels better than love that comes with a price tag. On paper, my life is boring in the best way. I'm a petroleum engineer. My days are spreadsheets, projections, and pressure systems. Early mornings, long emails, quiet evenings. Nothing glamorous, but my bills are paid on time, my fridge actually has food in it, and my brain has just enough to chew on so it doesn't eat itself. I don't do chaos. I do routine. Coffee at 6, gym at 7, work by 8:30. I like knowing my rent is covered, my savings are growing, and my life fits into the neat little boxes on my calendar. And then there was Tristan Monroe. Tristan is 27, a tour guide who can charm an entire bus of strangers before the first bathroom break. He talks with his hands, laughs with his whole body, and treats every room like a stage he's contractually obligated to entertain. We met last year because of Harper Lynn, our mutual friend, and, unfortunately, the kind of person who believes everyone needs just a little more fun. Elena, you're coming, Harper told me one Thursday, waving an event link in my face like it was a legal document. Outdoor hiking group, Saturday. No backing out. You work too much. I work the normal amount, I said. You work the amount that makes your eyes look like tax season, she shot back. I'll pick you up at 8. Which is how I ended up standing at the base of a mountain trail, holding a reusable water bottle and questioning my entire life as Harper waved me toward a crowd of strangers. And there he was, Tristan, in a faded tour company shirt, sun-streaked hair, sunglasses hooked on his collar. He was in the middle of a story about some tourist who tried to hike in loafers, and everyone around him was laughing like he'd just delivered a Netflix special. When Harper pulled me over, he turned that full wattage smile on me. Elena, this is Tristan, she said. Tristan, this is my friend I told you about, the genius engineer who lives like a retired accountant. I glared at her. He chuckled. Elena, he repeated, tilting his head. Nice. Strong name. Sounds like someone who files her taxes early. I do, I said flatly. He laughed again, like I'd just told the best joke of the day. It annoyed me. It also did something else. There's a kind of confidence that fills the air whether you invited it or not. That was Tristan. Too big, too bright, too much, and exactly what I didn't know I was missing. Back then, I found it refreshing. Conversation with him was easy. I'm used to talking to numbers, not people. Numbers don't ramble about their feelings and then ask what you think. Tristan did. A lot. But even that first day, I saw something I didn't have words for yet. He loved an audience. He dropped client names into casual stories, mentioned how much he made in tips, and turned every simple detail into a performance. A couple behind us was just trying to tie their shoes, and somehow it became a joke that looped back to his legendary shoe-tying skills on another tour. I shrugged it off. Everyone has quirks. Besides, the chemistry was there. We started dating, and for a while our differences felt cute. His spontaneity pulled me out of my routine. My stability grounded him. At least, that's what I told myself. The truth is, I thought we balanced each other. Calm and storm, structure and chaos, spreadsheet and improv show. But almost a year in, those differences weren't just quirks anymore. They were cracks. I like quiet nights and cooking at home. He wants to go out, be seen, post everything. If we get dinner together, he takes at least 10 photos before touching the food. Come on, babe, he'd say, angling his phone while I held a fork in midair. Smile like you're happy to exist. I am happy to exist, I'd mutter. I'm just also hungry. If you don't look excited, people will think I dragged you here. Sometimes I'd think, people will also think your girlfriend is a hostage if you keep waving that phone in her face, but I swallowed the comment. It didn't feel worth the argument. He lived like life didn't count unless someone else watched it happen. I lived like the camera was off unless I decided otherwise. The shift started on a Sunday morning that should have been forgettable. I was half awake in the kitchen, hair in a messy bun, wearing the same old t-shirt I'd had since college. Coffee machine humming. The good kind of quiet. Tristan leaned against the counter, scrolling on his phone with that tone in his voice. The dreaded, "So, I've been thinking." That tone never meant anything good. About what? I asked, pouring coffee. About our future, he said, like we were about to sign a treaty. We could really level up if we combine finances. I paused, cup halfway to my mouth. Combine finances? I repeated. Yeah, he said, as if it were obvious. Come on, we've been together almost a year. You've got your savings, I've got mine. Well, yours is bigger, clearly, he added with a laugh. It's about partnership. My friends say when you're serious, you share everything. There it was, the word, everything. I waited for him to laugh it off, to say he was kidding. He didn't. So I did what I always do when I feel cornered. I used sarcasm. Didn't realize we were merging accounts already, I said. Should I bring a lawyer or just a pen? His face froze. Wow, he said slowly, locking his phone. That's kind of a controlling response. I set the coffee down. Controlling, because I don't want to hand someone my savings like a party favor? It's not about that, Elena, he shot back. It's about trust. You act like I'm trying to rob you. My throat tightened. 10 years of slow savings flashed in my mind. Every extra hour, every skipped impulse purchase. Then another image. My dad, broke and furious in our kitchen when I was a teenager, telling me how his friend cleaned out their business account. He'd said, "Money isn't just numbers, kid. It's time, sweat, choices. Don't hand that over to someone who treats it like confetti." I looked at Tristan. I just don't think mixing money is the next step when we don't even live together, I said carefully. He scoffed, shaking his head as if I'd missed something obvious. You're so secretive, he muttered. You treat me like a stranger. I could have explained. I could have told him how I watched my father box up his office after a bad partnership, how I promised myself I'd never let anyone have that kind of access to my life. But I knew exactly how that conversation would go. He'd call it baggage. He'd say I was punishing him for someone else's mistakes. Somehow, he'd rearrange the story until he was the one being wronged. So I did something different. I said nothing. He huffed, pushed away from the counter, and left the kitchen, muttering something under his breath about me being emotionally stingy. I stood there, coffee cooling in my hand, replaying every word. It wasn't the money that bothered me. It was the entitlement. The way he said we when he meant me, as if what I earned automatically included him by default, just because we were together. That was the first time I realized we weren't in the same relationship. I saw two people building something slowly. He saw a lifestyle waiting to be upgraded. I rinsed my mug, wiped the counter, and made a quiet decision. No more arguing, no more explaining, no more long, circular conversations that left me feeling like I'd committed a crime for having boundaries. I would watch. I would listen. I would treat him like one of the systems I manage at work. Check the pressure, note the variables, see how high it climbs before something breaks. By the time he came back out, acting like nothing had happened, flipping through his phone, asking if I wanted to go out later, I already knew one thing for sure. That conversation wasn't a one-off. It was the first crack, and I needed to see just how deep it went. After that Sunday, things between me and Tristan didn't explode. They simmered. He acted like nothing happened, but every few days, little comments slipped out like steam from a cracked pipe. If we're serious, he'd say while scrolling on his phone, we should start sharing everything. That's what real couples do. I'd glance up from my laptop, everything like chores or everything like bank accounts? He'd laugh, tossing his hair back. Both, I guess, but mostly finances. It's about trust. Trust and joint accounts, I'd murmur. Killer combo. He'd roll his eyes. You're impossible, Elena. Another day, we were at his place, legs tangled on his old couch while he flipped through some furniture website. We should get a new couch together, he said. Something bigger, softer, symbolic, you know. Couples buy things together. I leaned back into the lumpy cushion. Symbolic of what, exactly? Monthly payments? It's not about the money, he sighed dramatically. It's about building something together. Then maybe we start with something that doesn't require financing, I replied. That earned me a pointed silence and a long, wounded look, as if I'd kicked a puppy instead of poking a hole in his sales pitch. Tristan didn't like being told no. He liked it even less when the no came without yelling, tears, or frantic apologies. He fed off reactions. The bigger the argument, the more alive he seemed. So I stopped feeding him. I stayed calm. I watched. I tracked patterns the way I tracked pressure in a pipeline. He started taking aim at how I live. If I pass on going out, I noticed one night, you immediately act like I'm 80. We'd been invited to some rooftop bar. I had said no. I had a report to finish in the morning. You're always saving, he complained, pacing around my kitchen. Don't you ever want to live a little? I do live, I said, rinsing a mug. I just don't need an audience for it. Wow. He muttered it under his breath, but loud enough. You make fun sound like a crime. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was curious. It reminded me of watching a valve at work. You see the pressure rising, you don't panic. You just see how high it goes before it needs a shutdown. Every time he tried a new angle, I logged it mentally. He'd joke about joint savings. I'd say no. He'd compare me to some friend's boyfriend who just lets her use his card. He'd accuse me of being cheap. I'd ask, define cheap. He never could. The truth was, none of this was about romance. It was about access. I'd learned young what access could cost. My dad had gone into a partnership with an old friend when I was 15. They opened a drilling supply business. For a year, it went well. New clothes, better groceries, the kind of Christmas where the gifts under the tree didn't look like an apology. Then one night I found my dad at the kitchen table, surrounded by stack after stack of paper. His hands were shaking. My mom stood by the sink, silent, like someone had pressed pause on her. His friend had been borrowing from the company account. By the time the dust settled, there was nothing left but debt and humiliation. I still remember helping him pack boxes from that little office. The for lease sign in the window felt like a bruise on our street. "Money's not just numbers, Len," he told me, voice rough. "It's time. It's sweat. It's every choice you made instead of something else. Protect it like it's a piece of you, okay?" That sentence dug into my bones and never left. So no, I didn't care if people thought I was rigid. I cared that I'd built everything I had, slowly and quietly, and I wasn't about to hand the key to someone who treated the idea like a lifestyle upgrade. Still, I didn't confront Tristan directly. I didn't give him the blow-up scene he seemed to be circling. I just kept listening. One night, after a long day at the field office, we were sitting in a diner. Neon lights buzzing above us, the smell of burnt coffee and fried food hanging in the air. He was venting about a rough tip day when he suddenly pivoted. "You know what your problem is?" he asked, stirring his soda with the straw. "I have many. You'll have to be more specific." "You're too rigid with money," he said. "You plan everything like you're 80. You don't splurge, you don't take risks, you just exist." I stirred my coffee slowly. "Existing has worked out pretty well so far." "It's controlling," he pressed. "You decide everything about spending, what we eat, where we go. It's exhausting." "You're free to spend however you want," I said, meeting his eyes. "I just don't have to fund it." "That's not the point," he snapped. "You treat money like a weapon, like I'm the enemy." I felt my lips twitch into a faint smile. "If controlling means not being stupid," I said quietly, "I'll live with it." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Not because I'd yelled, but because I hadn't. The lack of drama rattled him more than any shouting match would have. He grabbed his jacket. "I need space," he muttered, sliding out of the booth. I didn't beg or plead. I just paid the bill, finished my coffee, and watched him walk out into the night. By the time I stepped outside, the air smelled like rain and exhaust, and all I felt was certainty. He wasn't testing my trust. He was testing my limits, and he'd just found one. A few days later came Harper's birthday. She turned 29 and decided the only acceptable way to celebrate was dinner at one of those new fusion restaurants where everything looked handcrafted and tasted like an Instagram filter. Dim lights, loud music, cocktails with herbs no one could name, 20-something couples taking photos from every angle. Harper had booked a long table. When I walked in, she was glowing at the center of it, hands flying as she talked. 10 of us sat in a loose curve, old coworkers, mutual friends, a couple of people I only recognized from tags on social media. Tristan showed up 10 minutes after me, dressed like the main character in his own movie. Perfectly fitted shirt, expensive-looking watch he absolutely could not afford, cologne you could smell before you saw him. "It's a birthday, not a premiere," I said as he slid into the seat beside me. "You're just jealous I clean up better than you," he teased. "Someone has to," I replied, deadpan. He laughed, assuming I was joking. I wasn't. The night started light. Toasts for Harper, shared appetizers, stories about old office disasters. But Tristan was restless. I could feel it in the way his foot bounced under the table, the way his eyes kept scanning for new ears. Within 10 minutes, he'd turned the conversation toward himself. He complimented people loudly, exaggerated his latest tour stories, reenacted drunk tourists almost falling off cliffs. His voice was a little too loud, his laugh a beat too sharp. It wasn't conversation, it was a performance. I stayed quiet, ate, listened, waited. I'd learned something important. With Tristan, interruptions were oxygen. Halfway through the meal, while servers cleared plates, and someone made a joke about ordering dessert first, a girl at the far end called down the table. "So, Tristan, how's the tour life?" she asked. "Summer must be crazy for you." He smiled like the spotlight had just swung into place. "Oh, work's good," he said, twirling his straw. "But Elena here? She's the real breadwinner. Petroleum engineer money hits different." Several heads turned toward me. Harper's eyes flicked between us, wary. "Pays the bills," I said, taking a sip of water. Tristan wasn't done. She's being modest, he insisted. She's got this hidden fortune she never talks about. We're basically a power couple. She's just shy about it. There it was, a little laugh ripple. Awkward, unsure. I forced a polite smile. Didn't know we were filing taxes together, I said. Good to know. A few people chuckled, but it faded fast. Harper's smile wobbled. Tristan's grin only sharpened. No, seriously, he went on, leaning forward. She's super private with money. Like, I can't even joke about it without her going full accountant mode. I raised an eyebrow, but stayed quiet. Then he crossed a line I'd seen coming a mile away. She's so controlling with finances, he said. Tracks every dollar. You'd think I asked for a loan or something. The table went dead silent. You could have heard a fork hit the floor. In fact, someone did drop one, and the clink felt way too loud. A few people glanced at me, then at him, then at their plates, unsure whether they were still supposed to be amused. Tristan let out a little laugh, trying to smooth it over. Relax, I'm just kidding, he added quickly. Sort of. That sort of was the truth leaking out. I set my glass down, carefully. My heart was steady. No shaking hands, no rush of heat, just a cold, clear line being drawn in my head. If control means paying my bills on time, I said calmly, instead of funding someone's spa addiction, then sure, I'll take controlling. The silence that followed didn't feel awkward. It felt sharp, alive. The kind of silence that happens when everyone at the table realizes they've just slid into the middle of something raw and real. A few nervous laughs fluttered and died. Tristan's smile trembled, then froze. Across from us, Harper lifted a hand and waved a server over, her voice suddenly too bright as she asked for another round of drinks. She was trying to patch the mood, but the tear was already there. Wow, Tristan muttered under his breath. Real classy, Elena. You brought it up, I said, leaning back. His jaw clenched. He didn't say another word for the rest of dinner. The others tiptoed around us, shifting to safe topics. Travel plans, shows they were watching, anything that didn't involve money, relationships, or the two of us sitting side by side in a silence that hummed like an exposed wire. When the checks came, he barely looked at me. I paid ours, hugged Harper, and walked out into the warm night with Tristan at my side, the city lights reflecting in restaurant windows like a row of tiny spectators. Once we turned the corner and the voices faded behind us, he stopped on the sidewalk. You think that was funny? He asked, arms crossed. I think it was fair, I answered. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You couldn't let a joke go, I said evenly. You kept calling me controlling. That word means something, Tristan. If you're going to throw it around, at least don't be the one trying to manage my wallet. He glared at me, eyes bright with anger. You always twist things to make me look bad, he hissed. I was being playful. You made it ugly. You embarrassed yourself, I replied. I just stopped you from making up my life story. For once, he didn't have a comeback. He stared out at the street, jaw tight, then walked ahead of me to the car without another word. On the drive home, he turned the radio up so loud the bass rattled the door. He didn't look at me once. I watched the blur of city lights through my window and felt something settle inside me. Not guilt, not regret, just confirmation. He wasn't just careless with my boundaries. He was willing to use them as props for his own performance. And when someone is comfortable turning you into a villain for applause, it's only a matter of time before the show gets uglier. Tristan went quiet for 2 days after Harper's birthday dinner. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the calculating kind, the kind that hummed beneath the surface like a storm deciding where to land. On the third day, the flood began. At 11 in the morning, I got my first voice note. His tone was soft, shaky, performed. Elena, I hate how we left things. I was just joking. You know I didn't mean to upset you. I just care about us, about our future. Can we talk? Then came the texts, long paragraphs about partnership, trust, building something real. It sounded like he'd spent the night Googling healthy communication and copying whatever he found. I replied once, Take a breath, we'll talk later. He sent 3 more voice notes after that. I didn't respond. By the end of the week, the guilt trip evolved into something shinier, something with potential returns. He called one evening while I was knee-deep in system reports. His voice was bright, too bright. Elena, okay, listen, I found something amazing. What kind of something? I asked, not looking away from my screen. This new travel startup, he said, words tumbling out like someone shaking a soda can. It's like Airbnb meets adventure tourism. They're looking for early investors. I stopped typing. We? I asked. Yes, of course, we. I'd do it myself, but I'm stretched thin this month. Translation. He was broke. You've got savings sitting around doing nothing, he went on. It could triple in a year. There it was. The real pitch. Send me the info, I said calmly. He paused, surprised I wasn't immediately shutting him down. Really? Really. A minute later, he texted a link. The website looked like it had been slapped together by an AI program from 2012. Stock photos, buzzwords like global experiential enhancement, and nothing, absolutely nothing, about who owned or ran the company. No registration number, no corporate info, just a contact us box and a photo of 3 founders whose faces were so obviously stock images they probably sold toothpaste in other ads. I called him back. So who's running this company? I asked. Some entrepreneurs from California, I think, he said. You think? Well, I saw them on a podcast. What podcast? A long pause. One of them. What's their business model? I asked. You know, creating unique travel experiences that empower global... That's not a business model, Tristan. That's a slogan. His tone tightened instantly. Why do you always have to interrogate everything? I'm trying to include you in something exciting. I didn't respond. He hung up on me. I spent the next 10 minutes digging deeper. 2 minutes was enough to confirm what I already knew. The domain was 2 months old, registered to a mailbox rental in Florida. The founders were models from a stock photography site. The podcast he mentioned didn't exist. It wasn't just a scam. It was a bad scam. When I put down my phone, something in my chest clicked into place. All week he'd been laying the groundwork. The guilt, the apologies, the I care about our future, the pitch, the hook. He wasn't trying to fix our relationship. He was trying to reset the game in his favor, and the only thing standing in his way was my boundary. That night, I sat in my living room, scrolling through our old texts. Every guilt trip, every dig about money, every accusation. A single pattern stitched through them all. It was never about us. It was always about access. To my money, to my stability, to the life he thought he deserved by proximity. I'd stretched the line too far, letting him think my boundaries were negotiable. Time to cut it clean. So I did something I rarely do. I prepared. I changed every password, enabled 2-factor authentication, updated my bank notifications, set unknown callers to silence at work, backed up old messages in case he tried anything clever. By Monday afternoon, I was ready. At 4:17 p.m., he texted, "Be home at 7. We need to talk." No question mark, no asking, just entitlement dressed like urgency. I didn't respond, but I also didn't hide. At 7 on the dot, I heard the click of his expensive but always on sale shoes in the hallway. His knock was soft, fake gentle. I opened the door. He walked in with a bright smile, trying to kiss my cheek. I didn't move. He froze, his hand hovered in the air awkwardly before dropping. "Wow," he said lightly. "No, hello." "Hello," I replied, stepping back. "Let's skip small talk. We both know why you're here." He smiled wider, the kind of smile people practice in mirrors when they want something. "Good," he said. "I hate tension. I've been thinking a lot, Elena, about us." "I have too," I said. He took my tone as encouragement. "I know I overreacted at Harper's," he said smoothly. "I shouldn't have joked about money like that, or said those things. I want to start fresh." His voice was honeyed, warm, familiar. A performance. There was a time I might have believed it. Not anymore. "There's no fresh start, Tristan," I said quietly. He blinked. "What?" "We're done," I said. His smile shattered like a dropped glass. "You're kidding." "No." He laughed, sharp, disbelieving. "Your ending thing is over money?" "I'm ending it because I've seen enough." He dropped his purse-sized crossbody bag loudly onto the couch. "You're unbelievable," he snapped. "You act like I'm some gold digger just because I want to plan a future. You twist everything I say." "I don't twist anything," I replied. "I just listen." "Listen?" He scoffed. "You don't listen. You shut down. You're cold, controlling, emotionally unavailable. You don't want a partner." "You're right," I said softly. "I don't want a wallet with feelings." His eyes widened. That one hit him where it hurt. "Excuse me?" I stood up slowly. "If you need to call that control," I said. "Fine, but at least I control my own life." "All you are is a coward," he yelled suddenly. "You think you're better than everyone because you've got a degree and a job that pays well. You hide behind your little routines because you're scared of real intimacy." "Or maybe," I said, "I just know manipulation when I see it." He stepped closer, pointing a finger inches from my face. "You'll regret this, Elena," he hissed. "You'll end up alone with your stupid spreadsheets. No man will put up with your control issues." "I'm okay with that," I said. "I'll save a fortune." He gasped, literally gasped, as if I'd cracked a whip. "You're impossible," he shouted. "You can't erase me." "I'm not erasing anything," I said calmly. "I'm ending something that never should have started." That one stunned him into silence. His breathing changed. His expression fell apart. And then, like a switch flipping, his voice softened. Elena, please, he whispered. We can fix this. You know I didn't mean half the things I said. I was just hurt. You bring out my emotions. That's a good thing. Your emotions don't justify your actions, I said. He reached out, fingertips brushing the air between us. Don't do this, he whispered. You'll miss me. I stepped back. I already missed my piece. And that was it. His whole face twisted. Anger, humiliation, disbelief tangled into one knot. You know what? He snapped. Fine. If you want to be cold, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of woman you really are. You think you're safe behind your reputation? I'll expose you. People will know how controlling you were. I tilted my head. Make sure you spell my name right. The line stunned him. Then his mouth twisted into a snarl. You're disgusting, he spat. You think being clever makes you right? Maybe, I said, but I'm also free. He grabbed his bag, muttered something about me being a miserable control freak, and stormed toward the door. His footsteps echoed down the hallway, sharp, angry, final. I waited until they disappeared before locking the door. For the first time in months, my apartment was silent. Not the simmering kind. Not the calculating kind. The other kind. The kind that wrapped around me like a blanket. I blocked his number. Blocked him on every platform. Sat on my couch, the same couch he claimed we needed to upgrade, and felt something loosen inside my chest. The quiet wasn't empty. It was clean. I turned off the lights and headed to bed, the echo of his voice fading out with every step. That night, I slept like someone who had finally shut a door that had been rattling for far too long. The breakup happened in late January. The silence afterward didn't last long, not because I missed him, but because Tristan Monroe was not the kind of man who let a story end unless he got to write the last chapter. Within a week, the noise began, just not inside my apartment this time. It started with Harper. She sent me a screenshot one Tuesday afternoon. No greeting, no context, just an image. A vague, dramatic paragraph posted on Tristan's story. Sometimes people weaponize money to control you. Sometimes love becomes a cage. Sometimes you have to escape. Underneath it, the hashtag had financial abuse survivor. I stared at it for a few seconds. I didn't feel anger, just exhaustion. Harper followed up with, he's obviously talking about you. People are already asking. I typed back, let them ask. She responded with a gif of someone facepalming, but she knew me well enough not to push. A couple days later, the whispering began. Mutual friends texting cautiously, asking if I was okay, if I wanted to share my side, if I had seen Tristan's posts. I didn't answer those messages. I didn't post. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself. I knew something Tristan didn't. The truth doesn't need a spotlight. And I had receipts for everything, if it ever came down to it. 2 days later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I hadn't yet switched unknown callers to silent. I answered automatically. Hello, this is Elena. A woman's voice snapped through the line like a whip. This is Tristan's mother. I closed my eyes. Of course. He's been crying for days, she continued without taking a breath. You broke his heart and left him struggling. A real woman wouldn't abandon a man like that. I leaned against my counter. Ma'am, I didn't abandon him. I just stopped funding his fantasies. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. Then, the click of her hanging up. I put the phone down and exhaled. My apartment felt steady around me, the walls thick with a peace I wasn't willing to surrender. That evening, just as I sat down with tea, Harper called. Elena, what is he telling people? She asked. Because it's getting ridiculous. Some believed him at first, but now they're realizing he's not exactly stable. Let them figure it out, I said. You're not even mad? She asked. Harper, I said gently, you can't win an argument with someone who lies louder than you can talk. She was quiet for a beat. That's annoyingly wise of you. Comes with an engineering degree. She laughed and hung up. For a while, things quieted down. His posts got fewer. The whispers died. The online sympathy faded as people tired of the drama. I should have known it wouldn't last. One Saturday morning in February, just as I was mixing pancake batter, the doorbell rang. Not a knock, a bell. Repeated, firm, insistent. I checked the peephole and my stomach sank. Tristan stood there, with his parents behind him. His mother's arms were crossed. His father looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. I unlocked the door halfway, just enough to make a point. What is this? I asked. Tristan smiled. Fake, bright, sugary, like the kind of smile you get from someone selling timeshares. We came to apologize, he said. I brought something for you. He held up a small box wrapped in shiny paper. A peace offering. I looked at his parents. You really brought an audience for this? His mother frowned. We're just here for closure. Tristan is trying to make things right. I kept the door exactly where it was. You can say what you need to say from the hallway. Tristan laughed softly, as if I were the dramatic one. Elena, come on, he said. Don't be like that. Let me in for a second. No. His smile flickered. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm trying to be the bigger person. Then be it, I said, from the hallway. The sweetness evaporated from his face. His eyes filled instantly. On command. I'd seen this routine before. You're heartless, he whispered. I'm here trying to fix things, and you won't even open the door. You didn't come to fix anything, I said calmly. You came to get attention. His mask cracked. You think you're so perfect, he spat. Sitting in your little engineer bubble, judging everyone. You ruined me, Elena. You made me look crazy. You didn't need my help with that, I replied. His mother gasped. You're cruel, she hissed. I nodded toward the hallway. You all have 30 seconds before I make a call you won't like. Tristan's face twisted. You'll regret this, he shouted, his voice shaking. You'll regret ever treating me like garbage. He turned sharply and stormed down the hall, heels echoing in hard, angry beats. His mother followed, muttering something about ungrateful women. His father mumbled an apology without looking at me. I waited until the elevator slid shut before I closed the door fully. Then I locked it. Then I slid the deadbolt. Then I stood there, just breathing. The silence afterward was thick, warm, safe. Even though Tristan had never had a key, I changed the locks that evening. New hardware, new keys, new rules. I installed a small security camera above the door, backed up every message, voicemail, screenshot, and post into a single encrypted folder called Tristan Evidence. Not because I feared him, because I was done being reactive. I was done being caught off guard. That night, when the new locks clicked shut behind me, something in my chest finally unclenched. It wasn't just my apartment that felt protected. It was me. 6 months passed. 6 months of quiet. Not the heavy kind that makes you feel forgotten, but the clean kind that feels earned. The kind that settles into your bones, like peace finally reclaiming its territory. For the first time in years, my life wasn't organized around someone else's mood or mess. No sudden phone calls, no voice notes dripping with manipulation, no social media drama. Just me, my work, my routines, my space. And it felt like breathing with both lungs after holding your breath for too long. Tristan's name barely came up. Mutual friends stopped asking. People eventually realized his stories didn't add up, not when he repeated them with new villains every month. He didn't change. He just found a new audience. Typical Tristan. My world, meanwhile, shifted in a much better direction. One of the biggest changes? I finally bought my condo. I'd been saving for years, quietly, steadily, cautiously. I kept telling myself I'd wait for the right moment. Turns out the right moment was the one where I no longer wasted energy on the wrong person. The place wasn't enormous. 2 bedrooms, big windows, an open kitchen, a view of the river, but it felt like a physical embodiment of peace. On the day I signed the closing papers, Harper showed up at my door with takeout and a bottle of sparkling cider. She lifted her cup and said, "To freedom." I smirked. "You make it sound like I escaped prison." She raised an eyebrow. "Girl, you did. You just built the prison yourself and let someone else decorate the cell." I laughed, because she wasn't wrong. We sat on the bare living room floor, surrounded by boxes. The walls were empty, but the emptiness felt hopeful, not lonely. "You heard from him?" she asked between bites. "Not directly," I said, "but someone told me he's dating a photographer now. She's helping him rebrand." Harper groaned. "Oh, for the love of God, rebrand? He's not a product. He's a walking red flag." I shrugged. Performers need stages. She nudged my foot. "Well, I'm glad you got off that show." I didn't say it then, but as I watched her talk, something clicked inside me. I hadn't just gotten off the show. I'd stopped auditioning for roles in other people's dramas. Over the next few months, small victories piled up. My sleep improved, my focus sharpened, my energy returned in places I didn't know it was missing. I started waking early just because I wanted to, not to manage someone else's emotions before my morning coffee. The condo became my sanctuary. Clean counters, soft lighting, silence that didn't feel empty. For the first time in a long time, my life wasn't noisy. It was full of things that mattered, full of things that were mine. In June, I finally took a trip I'd been putting off for years. Switzerland. It had always been on my list. Clean air, mountains, still water, the kind of landscapes that force you to slow down. I booked the flights on a Tuesday, packed a small bag on Friday, and left Saturday morning. No second guessing. No asking anyone's opinion. Just going. Switzerland was everything I needed, and everything Tristan never understood. Quiet mornings by the lake, mountains that made you feel small in the best way, chilly air that bit your cheeks and reminded you that you're alive. I hiked. I sat on benches and watched water ripple. I wrote in a small notebook I bought at the Luzerne train station. On my second to last night, sitting by Lake Lucerne, with the sky turning purple over the mountains, I wrote 3 sentences that summed up everything these past months had taught me. 1. People who demand access don't always deserve it. 2. Boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. 3. Silence beats chaos every time. Simple but true. When I came back home, my condo felt different. Not empty, alive. The place smelled like new paint and possibility. I hung some framed photos from Switzerland, set up plants by the windows, bought a rug that made my living room feel warm. I wasn't building a life around anyone else's chaos anymore. Just mine, calm, predictable, chosen. A couple weeks later, Harper visited again. She stood in the entryway, eyes scanning everything. The plants, the photos, the clean kitchen, the sunlight spilling across the floor. "You look different," she said finally. "How so?" "Like the world stopped yelling at you." I laughed. Maybe it finally did. She flopped onto my couch. "So, any new dates? Anyone catching engineer goddess Elena's eye?" "It's not a monastery," I said. "It's quality control." "Same thing," she teased. "Still, Tristan told everyone you were cold and controlling. You handled the breakup better than I ever could have." I sat next to her, sipping my coffee. "There's no winning an argument with someone who lies louder than you can talk," I said. So I stopped trying. Harper nodded slowly. "Kind of brilliant." "He ran on reactions," I said. "When I stopped reacting, he ran out of fuel." She pointed at me dramatically. "See, this is why you're the smart friend." After she left, I sat on my balcony, looking out at the city lights reflecting on the river. The air was warm. Someone nearby was playing soft music. The world felt gentle. Tristan had apparently moved on to a new friend group. Same stories. New audience. It didn't bother me. He could perform for whoever wanted front row seats. For me, the show was over. I realized something then, something I hadn't put into words until that moment. Tristan used to say during arguments, "You're afraid of losing control." But he was wrong. I never lost control. I just stopped letting him think he had any. Control isn't about bending someone else's life around yours. Control is refusing to let someone else write your story for you. He wanted a provider. I wanted a partner. We were both applying for different jobs, and only one of us got hired. The next morning, I woke early, made coffee, and stood by the kitchen window as sunlight painted gold across the river. For the first time in a long time, I didn't think about the past. I didn't worry about the future. I didn't need a plan. I just breathed and smiled. Everything